This video is about making an embellished sort of kimono jackety kind of thing. It was inspired partially by the Balmain H&M amazing £300 black velvet jacket and some other things that I've seen in the shops as well. It's quite an easy pattern cut, and the challenge here is that I've used velvet, which is a stretchy fabric, so you need to use a little bit more skill than if you're using a non-stretch fabric, but I'll talk about that in a second. Let's go. So the amount of fabric that you need to buy is going to be determined by the length that you want the jacket. For the length, if you just go from your shoulder sort of seam down to where you want the jacket to hit you, I'm going to go about here. That looks good to me, which is 60 plus seam allowance for 1 centimetre. Keep that in your head. And then the other measurement, is going to be a measurement around the arm. So we want a loose arm. And if anyone ever made the swing dress, you'll know what I mean. A very generous and loose arm, because I want a looser shape. That's 40 centimetres. That'll do for a lot of people. So it's going to be that plus that. In my case, it's a metre, so I just had to go and buy a metre, which obviously works out very nicely for me. So I've chosen to make this out of velvet because I want it to have that luxurious feel to it, and velvet's good because you can get it from most places and it's not too pricey. This one here was £5 a metre, and I bought a metre. The problem is that it has got a stretch to it, or at least some velvets have got a stretch to it, and that can be a pain, but in order to get around that, I'm really just going to do the minimum amount of sewing possible, so hopefully it'll be quite hassle free. If you don't fancy going for the velvet though, either because you don't like the look of it, or you can't be bothered to deal with any stretch fabrics at the minute, then any sort of floaty fabric would be fine, and you'll still have a cool kimono shape out of whatever fabric that you choose. So to start pattern cutting, we're going to lay out the fabric on the table. So going across is the natural width of the fabric, and going top to bottom is the length that I bought, so a metre. So the first measurement you need to put down is your chest measurement around here, plus about 25 centimetres. For me that was about 115 centimetres. And I'm just going to go from this edge of the fabric along, and this is going to be my end point, so just mark that a second or lay something down so you remember where it is, and fold this edge into it. So having folded that, what you've got from this folded edge to here is half chest plus 25, okay? And so that's folded in half, and I'm going to go again folding in half. So this edge, folded edge, meets up with this folded bit here. And it's at this stage we can start drawing the pattern on. Okay, so the first step in drawing your pattern, we start off at this top corner here that's got the 2 layers of folded fabric, and just add a little bit of a droopy curve to that. I've just literally gone across there. Then, as you might have seen me do before if you followed previous videos, is that if you did the swing dress video or something like that, or even the pyjamas, you'll see how I do an armhole. I literally put it here at the top seam of whatever clothes I'm wearing, and go around to a sort of a low armpit shape. How much is that? That's 30 centimetres, and just hold the curve here, and I lay it down on the fabric. Like so. And then I'm just going to draw that curve on. So I've drawn that curve on. I didn't go right to the top of the fabric, and I'm just going to square that off now. So just so you can see a bit better, this is all that I've done. You can see the neck curve, the arm curve, which I've done about 3 centimetres from the top of the fabric, and I've just squared off the space in between. And then from the top of the fabric, take measure at the top and just go down to your desired length, which for me was 60. Add 2 centimetres for hemming, mark it on, square it off, and that's it for the top part, very easy. I'm just going to cut along what I've drawn, so across this bottom edge, around that armhole curve. Now obviously this bit's folded as well because we dragged it over, so I'm just going to cut straight through here. And at this point you've got one back and one front, and obviously given that this is a jacket we need to do some work on the front. I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to cut it in half because that's the opening part. And then because I want the kimono to have like a V-ish front like that, I'm just going to choose a point where I think that would be nice, say 22 centimetres down, no, yeah, 22 centimetres down, and from there make a point, and then we go about 3 centimetres in from this edge, and just join up that to make a skinny triangle, which is then cut out and snip right along. Now for the sleeve we need 3 measurements. The first one is whatever you think you need for a nice baggy sleeve. I'm going for 40 centimetres there, which is going to be really quite big on my arms. The other one is from the top of your shoulder here to the desired sleeve length. I'm going to go for an elbow length thing, which will be 35 centimetres, and then we need the final measurement from a sort of loose underarm point. You know, when we did that, basically imagine the top of that, which is here, and drop down also to elbow length, which on me is 22 centimetres, so 35, 22, and then I'm going to put that on here. So on the fabric, all up here has just been taken away for the body, and we've got a long skinny strip here. I'm going to fold that in half. I'm going to take my desired sleeve measurement, which is 35, here, and just fold like that. So now we've got 2 lengths of 35. So now I've got my desired sleeve measurement length here. I'm just going to flip that over, top to bottom, and I'm going to fold it in half this way, depending on how wide I want. So I said I wanted 40 for a nice big sloopy sleeve, and 40 centimetres looks like that, almost the whole thing. And I'm just going to mark it out and bring this side all the way over to that side. So now you'll remember that this from the top to the bottom is what I wanted from out here, and then the other measurement we need to put on is the measurement that we did from here to the elbow, so that was 22 for me. And just go from the bottom edge 22 centimetres, and then from your top point here to here you need to draw an S shape. If you are not sure about drawing the shape, what you can do to help you is get something circular. This is a big yogurt lid, which is clean, and just sort of line that up and do the circle one way, and then line up at your other point and do it that way. So this is very essy. I wouldn't want it to be that strong, so then just like make it a bit more mellow and a bit more joined up. And that's it for your sleeve. Just one check you need to do is follow along the curve with your tape measure. And the length of the curve should be about the same as the measurement that we did for the arm curve here to here, and that will mean that obviously your sleeve will fit into your sleeve hole, which is good. If it doesn't line up straight away, then you can just play around with the curve a bit. If it's if this is too small for the hole, then you need to make it more curvy, or if this is too big for the hole, you need to straighten it out a bit, because then it will have less length to it. But anyway, this is good for me. And now I'm just going to cut along here, cut along the curve and cut along the edge. And then we've got this fold at the bottom here, so just open the sleeve out at the minute and just cut along the bottom as well. So you've got 2 sleeve pieces. Okay, so I forgot to press record when I did this bit, but the first bit of sewing we need to do is just sew the 2 front pieces to the back piece. In order to do that, you just need to, with the right sides together of the fabric, take the front pieces and lay them on the back piece so that the 2 lines of the shoulders line up with each other, and then simply sew across the top 1 centimetre from the edge. That's it. So I'm just going to sew right along here. I just recommend that if you're using a stretchy fabric like I am, I've got the stretch velvet, just make the length of your stitch on your sewing machine a bit bigger, and then it won't sort of go tight, and it will move a bit better when you're wearing it. Once that's done and you've sewn all your shoulder pieces together, you'll have something that looks like this. You can see these will be the front and that will be the back, and it's time to put your sleeves in place. So here is my sleeve with that little hump shape, and that needs to fit into this curve. So what I do is, first of all, fold it in half for a second, just so you know where the middle point of the little hump is, and wherever that is, you need to lay it on here. So I'm pinning right sides together, and this is the centre point of the curve here. This is where my shoulder joint is. So just lay that on, pin it about a centimetre from the edge, and then you just need to go around pinning it to this curve. So just work it around. Obviously they're slightly different in shape, but you can make them fit. Just ease them around whatever way you can, pin along. And you can see once you've pinned all the way around, everything starts to follow of this curve of the top of your sleeve, and that's exactly what you want to happen, because obviously that's the shape of your shoulder. Your shoulder is a curve. So yeah, I've done that on this side. Do exactly the same on this empty side, and then on all of this area, this big curved edge that we've sewn around, just going to sew directly 1 centimetre from the edge and get those sleeves on. So you can see I'm just starting at the edge here, and I'm going to follow the whole curve around. So once you've done the sleeves on both sides, you'll be left with a big bumpy thing, which you can see will fit, has that curve that fits on the shoulders, which is good. Now you just need to sew up along the bottom of the arm and the side as well. So working with this guy inside out, you line up that sleeve, just put the edges together, then we're going to sew all along that edge. Then you'll hit the seam where you've attached the sleeve to the body, and I just want you to keep on going down the side all the way to the side of the jacket. And once that's done, you'll fully be able to recognise this hunk of stuff as an actual jacket. And you try it on, you will have a totally recognisable jacket. You see, it's got that V there, some nice baggy sleeves. So the next step is to finish some of our edges, and as I keep banging on about this velvet not being very fun to work with, I'm not going to do a roll hem because it will be quite bulky and it's going to be quite slippery, and I don't think it will be a good finish. So I personally am okay with just not even having a rolled hem, just fold it up a centimetre, and I'm going to sew along there. If you're not into that, if you're too fancy, one thing that you could do is use a zigzag stitch to go just over the edge, and it sort of closes everything in, and then you fold it in and sew it. Boom, very easy. But so that I can get a neater edge on here, I'm going to make kind of a facing, but not really because it's not to the shape that it needs to be. This here is the fabric that we used earlier. You can see there's a curve here from like the top of the last sleeve that we cut out, and here's the excess. And from this we just need 2 strips of fabric that are 5 meters in width. So use 5 centimeters and put it there. And just so 5 centimeters is marked there, and I'm just going to go all the way along in a straight line. And I'm going to do exactly the same again one more time, 5 centimeters. And now I've got 2 long pieces. I'm just going to put them right sides together, sew along the edge, so then you'll have one very long strip to work with. So now I've got this really long guy, and I've got my jacket, and I'm going to start off in the centre back of the jacket. So just line it up and fold it in half a second so you can work out where that halfway point is. Then grab your big long strip of fabric, and where that halfway point is, where you've just sewn the pieces together, right sides together, line that up with the edge of the jacket and pin that in place. And what I'm going to do is just go all along this long piece of fabric in the jacket, holding them together like this, always right sides together, and pin it, move it along, pin it. So you do that all the way along the edge until you get to the end. And now obviously this bit was too long for the actual jacket itself, so I'm going to snip away here, and then I'm just going to sew these 2 pieces of fabric together all the way along this whole front edge of the jacket, 1 centimetre from the edge as usual. Here I go. So once you've gone all the way around the edge with this strip of fabric, you'll see that ultimately what we want to happen is just we flip that underneath, and you've got a nice clean edge. But in order to do that, we're going to have to do a bit more stitching. So one option would just be you pin this as you want it to be in reality. So just it's folded over, it's on the wrong side of the fabric, pin there, and then stitch close to the edge of here of the strip. Sorry. But again, I keep banging on about these stretch fabrics, and I think that it's going to be a little bit easier to do that if we zigzag stitch along this. If your sewing machine doesn't zigzag stitch, then feel free to leave it out, it's not the end of the world. But this is quite a basic sewing machine and that does it. So just set a normal zigzag stitch on your machine and go around the edge of this thing, because you might have noticed that when you're sewing these 2 bits together, this one stretches a bit, and I don't want it to continue to stretch when I sew it inwards, so I'm going to zigzag it because hopefully that will stop the process a little bit. Okay, so once you've zigzagged, you'll have a slightly neater edge that's hopefully lost some of that stretch. That's what we want, that's good. Other thing that I want you to do is just fold this in, the short edge of it, with right sides together, and I'm going to sew along here because that's just going to help. That's going to give us a bit of a guide and give us a bit of help when we hem the bottom later on. So just across there and the same on the other side. And now I'm going to go to what the original plan was and just flip over the fabric to where it wants to be and pin along the edge. Keep going with that. So pinned everything where it would like to be. And now I'm just going to do a row of stitching along this edge. So at the front there will be a row of stitching like along here, but because I've got a dark fabric, I've got a thread the same black, it's not really going to be noticeable. And with velvet in particular, it kind of like hides itself in a little furriness of the velvet anyway, so don't worry about it. And even if it's going to be something that's a bit more conspicuous and a bit more visible, just try and keep as straight as you can, and it'll be fine. If you have a little wiggle, no one's going to notice. Wait, and going back to a straight line stitch, we're finished with the zigzags now. And just a little FYI, as I'm sewing this, I'm sort of pulling the strip of material quite tautly into the position that I want it to be. So just all the time that I'm sewing, this is the position of my hands, just pinning that with my hand, pinning the fabric to where it wants to be and holding it as I sew along. Okay, so that's done, nice and neat finish. At the minute there's a little bit of bumpiness on it, maybe, yeah, you can see a bit, but a little bit of ironing will sort that all out. And then we just need to finish the arms as well. So if you want, you can zigzag all the way around the edge and then just turn it in and sew it along there, but I just cannot be bothered to zigzag them, so I'm just going to fold it up, fold it in. So I'm just going to fold it in 1 centimetre and trap that with stitching. A rolled hem would be too bulky, I feel, with this sort of fabric. And I mean, you can see that that's the cut edge, and it's not got any fraying or loose threads or anything. And if I washed this, it wouldn't come undone. So I'm just not gonna bother. I'm really just not gonna bother doing anything fancy to it. Just fold and sew. That's done. Nice and easy and simple. Couldn't do the same on the other side. So that's most of the finishing done. I haven't done the bottom yet, and you'll see why, but it's only going to take a minute anyway. And that means we get to do the fun bit, which is decoration. So the world is absolutely your oyster when it comes to embellishing this thing. So at the beginning of the video I showed some inspiration, one of which was the Balmain for H&M, amazing, beautiful beaded thing. If you've got patience, then you can definitely go to town with the beads and do whatever kind of crazy design you want to do on that. You obviously have to do that by hand, you can't do it by machine, which is why it takes so long, and part of the reason why that jacket costs £300. If you bead it, will probably take you about 300 hours. I don't have the patience for that. What I'm going to do is use some braid, which is about 15p a metre, and I'm going to use this just to make a little pattern that I think is cool on the front. And it's easy because then I can just machine stitch directly on top of it, and it's quite a low effort, high impact way of getting a design. But there are lots of things you can buy. If you search on eBay for like lace motifs, you can get these sort of nice shapes of lace and patterns and things that you can. Some of them you can even iron on, but I wouldn't recommend that for velvet at all. But just ones that can be attached with a few stitches. Also, you can buy fringing, which is cool as well. Although that's quite expensive. Fringing is about £2 a metre. So I mean, it's not that expensive compared to what's out there, but I don't want any. So I bought 3 meters of braid. It's kind of like an ivoryish colour, but it comes in all sorts. And because I'm going to have, a design on each side that's symmetrical, I'm going to snip this in half. So I've laid out one front side of my jacket here. Also, I'll use this point to make a confession that because of bits of stretching and things, my front jacket didn't line up with that. You see, there's like 1.5 centimetres that is too long, and if that happens to you, I'm just telling you, don't freak out. You can just cut it so that it re-levels itself. So I've got the jacket laid out in front of me. This is the left side of the jacket, this is the front of it, and I'm just going to have a little play with this 1.5 meters of braid that I've got. So I'm lining up these edges with the very edge of the jacket itself and just keep giving it a good little pin. This is why I didn't hem the edge yet, because I want it all to tuck under in the edge, so I'll get rid of these little fluff. And now I'm going to do just a wiggly sort of pattern. So when I tried it on, I was pretty happy with it. The only thing was that I thought it was a bit far out, so I've moved it in a little bit, and now I'm going to sew it on and show you how to sew it on. it's like this, and you need to thread your sewing machine with a thread that's similar colour to this, because otherwise you don't want the stitching to show up too much. And I'm just going to stitch directly on top of it through the centre of the braid all the way along this way. So you can see that I've just put the press foot down directly onto the braid. I've lined up the needle so it's in the middle of the braid, and I'm just going to go along quite slowly and just follow this line all the way around. Even when it gets to a crossover point, I'll just go over it in one direction, and then I'll end up sort of coming back down that road and crossing over it. Anyway, so just try and take your time on this bit, and it will be fine. Okay, so that is done. I now have to do the other side, which is always the tougher part. It's like doing your eye makeup really well, and then you have to try and repeat it on the other side. So you can use whatever mechanisms you deem necessary to try and help you get a relatively symmetrical finish. I'm just going to get a tape measure and say things like, oh, that's 4.5 centimetres from the edge. This can now be 4.5 centimetres from the edge. And then sew it like we just sewed it, and then we're just going to have to do the bottom, and then we'll be absolutely finished, which is excellent news. So now I've sewn both bags under my eyes. So now I've sewn both sides, and here it is, the jacket. All that's left to do is just so I need to snip off these bits, then I'm going to fold over in line. So remember I made you sew up these corners like inside out. This will give you just an idea of how much you need to turn up the bottom, and then when you turn it up, like we did the sleeve, just turn it up once, sew along the edge, and that is one finished embellished kimono just for you. So just flip that under and sewn it in a straight line. The jacket is now finished.